Hi, everyone, and welcome to another podcast of One Take because life has no rehearsals. Today, I am absolutely thrilled to bring Velia Wortman. Velia is a classmate of mine in high school, actually, probably before high school, in a Catholic, she made me say it's a Catholic school in Puerto Rico. One of the one of the earliest memories I got of Velia is, and you will see why. One day she said, I'm 50% Canadian, 50% Mexican, 50% Chinese. It doesn't at all. She's a lot of woman. And apart from everything else she's done, and she's going to go into it, she is one of the pioneers of traditional Chinese medicine in Germany. So, Belia, without further ado, the first question I ask from everybody, there's always one seminal moment, one definitive moment. And by the way, and I can't remember who said it in some play, you never know that it is happening at that moment. You always, sorry, you always realize later on, oh my God, that was a definitive moment. So, yours, tell us about it.
Well, Marcelo Salub, first of all, I need to clarify my origins, and in fact, I'm born in Mexico City, of a Chinese mother. She was already third generation Chinese in Mexico, and a Canadian father. And he was, like most white Canadians, he was a mixture of Irish and Scottish and obviously German and Dutch and everything else. So I had a very interesting childhood from the point of view that my parents moved around quite a bit due to my father working for a Canadian insurance company. And after we got kicked out of Cuba in 1960, we went to Miami in 1960, and my mother refused to stay in Miami. She found it highly uncivilized. So my father and my brother and I and my mother are sitting at Miami airport, and my father who had done a lot of traveling in the Caribbean and Latin America during as part of his work for the insurance company, said, oh, I kind of like the Puerto Ricans. They're very nice people. And I think they have a good school system. And I think it's a pretty stable government. So let's give Puerto Rico a try. Okay. And so we left highly uncivilized Miami 1960. My mother said it was very, very depressing. I went to Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico in the 1960s was a very conservative, very traditional society, and going to a very conservative, very traditional school as the product of a biracial marriage, and furthermore being Protestant and not Catholic in a Catholic country, it was not easy to get
I
by.
bet.
And when I was switched from an American school to an American Catholic high school, I was miserable. And I wasn't greeted very nicely by my fellow classmates. They found me strange. I was obviously not white, not completely white. And there were, however, in this misery of being in ninth grade and not knowing anybody, there was a shining light. And there were two shining lights. And one of them was Marcelo Salup, who is interviewing me at the moment. And the other one was Jorge Vizcarrondo. And I think they found me interesting. They found
Absolutely.
me
Absolutely.
They found me interesting, but more than anything, I remember that they both found my mother very interesting because my mother at the time was about 35, and my mother, if you look at the photographs of that at that time, my mother was hot. She was
Yes.
one hot Chinese mama. She was defined by friends of ours as the Chinese Sophia Loren. And she also was very good at cooking. She was a great Chinese cooking. She was a great hostess. And so that was, I think, part of the attraction. And my mother was eternally grateful to Marcelo and Jorge for befriending me and for taking me in when the rest of my class shunned me. So just that by way of introduction. And we're still friends. I'm still friends with Jorge. We keep regularly in touch, and Marcelo and I have kept in touch through his various incarnations because, as you know, he keeps on reinventing himself. And I think it's admirable how he's continued all these years. So chapeau, hats off to you, Marcelo.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So I'm sorry
Now
for
tell me
I,
what
I'm
happened decisively. How
so the decisive
what
moment.
created the modern Velia?
The modern Velia was created after having slugged through pre-med at the University of Toronto and then having gone to medical school in London at the Royal Free Hospital and having been submitted to this very hierarchical, extremely conservative medical system. And then having married and gone to Germany and become a GP and having kind of a fairly successful GP practice in the southern part of Germany. Uh, a seminal moment in 1992 was that a postcard fell out of a doctor's magazine from the Deutsche Ärzteblatt. And this, for those of you who are medical people who have read the very important book, The House of God, which is a parody of the medical system, know that the fates of many people in the House of God are determined by postcards falling out of magazines. And this postcard said, starting next month, there will be acupuncture courses run in the city of Nuremberg. So I thought, oh, I can kind of rescue myself from my humdrum existence as a mother, because I was a working mother of four, and my GP existence, which was slightly, after 10 years, slightly boring. I decided, I know acupuncture. I was in China in the 1970s, and I have been treated in London by acupuncture. So what the hell? Let me try it. And so that was 19, what did I say? That was 1993. And after that, my career in Chinese medicine took off. Not only did I do the acupuncture courses, but then I subscribed to an acupuncture magazine. And out of this acupuncture magazine, another postcard fell out. And this postcard said, you can become a master of Chinese medicine at the Anglo-Dutch Institute in Haarlem in the Netherlands, which is sort of 8 hours by train from Nuremberg. So I embarked on that route. And this was, you can imagine, 1993, 94, 95. This was the beginning of the inroads of Chinese medicine into mainstream medicine in Germany. And all of this came from the United States, from the UK. And these were teachers that had been in Macau, they had been in Shanghai, they had been in Peking in the 1970s and the 1980s, and they had returned to the United States. And from the United States, they had been brought to the UK and they had been brought to Holland. But Germany was still kind of isolated. And I reached out to all of these teachers. Right, I met them at the conferences. My English language skills were obviously a great advantage. And interestingly enough, the fact that I wasn't a naturopath, which is a profession in Germany, but I was a medical doctor, made me attractive for them as a kind of a messenger, a conveyor, then to make inroads into the German system. So we fast forward nearly 30 years, and in the meantime, in Germany, Chinese medicine, at least the part of that the West recognizes, which is acupuncture, is part of routine care for many diseases in the German normal healthcare system. We have 5 hospitals in Germany that are dedicated to Chinese medicine and with inpatients. And we have approximately 10 associations, 5 of which are medical
Wow.
for Chinese medicine. Yeah. The numbers vary about how many doctors do acupuncture, but it's something between 7 and 10,000 in all of Germany, plus all the naturopaths who are also doing acupuncture, plus all the physiotherapists who are doing acupressure and tuina, which is a form of Chinese manual therapy.
I've had that, yes.
Yeah, yeah, which is great,
In
you
New
know.
York, of all places.
Yeah, no, but anyway, uh, so 30 years later, Germans do not need to go to the UK. They do not need to go to Holland. They do not need to go to New York to get training in Chinese medicine. Why? Because there are great centers of teaching and including also research. Here in Berlin, there's a part of the Free University, or actually the Humboldt University, huge hospital called the Charité, where research is done into acupuncture, research is done into qigong, research is done into acupressure, research is done into tuina. Okay, all of this is happening here. Unthinkable 30 years ago.
Well, I was
Unthinkable.
going to say, but not only was it unthinkable, so that changed completely. You essentially led the change. You
I
were
what
part of the small group of people who said, this is great, and you created change.
all due to these postcards falling out of magazines, right?
That is really wild. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So
Well,
anyway, so that's what I do, and
and you
um,
own like a series of clinics.
no, no, no.
Ah,
I'm not that ambitious, and first of all, a series of clinics to own would be illegal in Germany. That would be very, very, very difficult to do. I'm basically, after many, many years of collaborating with various people, at my age now, I'm a one-man show, but a one-woman show. But more than anything, I'm a brand, and this has been told to me many times that I'm a brand and nobody else can do or work the same way I do.
oh,
So
that's great.
that's yeah, that's
So, what is in store for 2025? That is a question I haven't asked a lot of people,
well. I
but
wanted to get
in
back
your
to one
case, it really
question.
fits.
No, well, hang on. I wanted to get back to one of the questions that you sent me. One of the changes that I could have not imagined when I came to Germany from the UK in 1981 is that there would be a doctor shortage in 2024. This was unimaginable.
Really?
And we have a very severe doctor shortage. It's horrible. And so this is one of the reasons that my practice, which is actually very big, has become so valuable. I had never imagined this, Marcelo. And many, many other of my colleagues who are similar age to me, the GPs, for example, who continue to do their GP practices, they cannot stop working. Why? Because they have no successors. And I have,
Wow.
yeah, I also do not have a successor. And it has to do with lots of demographic changes in Germany. It has to do also with a comparative falling in the way medicine is paid and what doctors' salaries, what the development has been over the last 30 years. We are no longer at the top of the scale. We're still pretty high up, but it's not as an attractive profession in monetary terms anymore. And it's also because due to many EU regulations, many insurance caveats, it has become increasingly bureaucratic to practice. And the bureaucratic work, as you know, takes up a lot of your time. And as
Oh, yeah.
doctors, we're not that interested in that. So the profession as a whole has become a little bit more unattractive. And also, what I have noticed the last 10 years is that this pioneer geist, this urge to find something new, to discover, to start something by yourself, to stake out something, does not exist in this generation now that's coming from out of medical schools. But also in other professions, people don't want to go into single practices. They want to go into, they want, and be their own bosses. They want to go into so-called group practices where they're employees. And I could have not seen this change. Nobody had foreseen this change, Marcelo. And now in Germany, in this very conservative country that did not welcome me in 1981 with my British medical degree, right? And they are now hiring people from Venezuela, from Cuba, doctors, right? From Morocco, from Algeria, giving them, incentives to come here. People who are not necessarily, I hate to say this, perhaps as well versed in Western medicine as I could have been in 1981. But it's because they're simply desperate and they need to fill in then all the gaps. And I mean, I'm glad that they're here. I mean, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but I would say it used to be, oh, only European degrees are acceptable, or we can only get, and for a while we had people from Spain coming here. But the Spanish don't want to come here anymore. They're having a shortage of doctors as well. They're getting doctors from Cuba, right?
Yeah,
So,
they are. I can
these
testify to that. I go to Spain like twice a
Y-
year.
Yeah, so these changes I could have not foreseen. So that's one of the things that I hear every single day, Marcelo, every single day from my patients. They keep on saying, please don't retire. Please
Wow.
stay on, right? Whatever happens, we're going to keep you going, right? Don't quit. This is a great encouragement.
No, it
And
is.
last year I actually had somebody who was extremely well qualified, because this new generation, it isn't that they did the classes here in Germany or in the UK or whatever in Chinese medicine. The new generation has gone to China and they have Chinese medicine degrees from China in Chinese, right? And then they come back here extremely well qualified, and they also studied the Western medicine and all the rest. So I had an offer for taking over my practice, and I went through all the motions, and everybody kept on saying, you got to go through with this because this is a one and only experience or whatever. But what I realize now, looking back to May, June last year, when all of this was taking place, is that I didn't really want to do this. God. I was, on the one side, I was thinking, well, I could spend more time with my husband, and he's retired, or maybe I could do this other kind. But something inside me did not want this deal to go through. So in the end, the deal did not go through. And I think everybody was like, oh, thank God. All right. So, and my husband was like, oh, thank God, because at least, he knows that I'm busy and I won't turn him into a
Yeah,
project.
exactly.
Um,
You won't be around the house to tell him, "Oh, we need to do this. We need to
no,
do that."
no, no, no. He's the king of the house since he retired from special ed 2 years ago. So anyway, I didn't want to bore you with that, but I think that's a kind of roundabout way of answering that very important question about what keeps me going. And
That's great. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So my GP friends here in Germany, it's not unusual to be a GP with 72. They don't have successors, and GP in Germany involves also doing house calls. So they're doing house calls. Can you imagine? They're going with their little doctor's bag. Visiting people at home, going to the old people's homes. Right? It's
I live in the
fabulous.
U.S. That doesn't happen in the U.S.
Well, that's too
Period.
bad. But anyway, it's
When
cradle
I
to
lived in
grave here.
Argentina, we had that. When I lived in
Yeah,
Mexico, we had that. But
sure,
like not
sure.
in the U.S. It
Yeah,
just
no,
doesn't happen. It's
yeah.
also strange for us because there's a lot of single practices here. There's a lot of people who graduate and they immediately set up a practice. And it's not only doctors, lawyers do it.
Yeah.
I got a very good friend who's a Well, now they are called plaintiff attorneys because
Yeah, yeah.
PI, personal injury, was like kind of low lifer. But that was his dream. Sorry, that was his big dream. He wanted a solo practice, and now he's got it. Even though he partnered up with another guy because, you know, several people specialize on different things, and a law practice has to have a few disciplines. But in the U.S., it's very different, of course. So, final question, and you're not a shy person. Neither
So
am I.
I want to add one more thing because
Oh
this
yeah,
was an important question for you to, if I was hiring, right? What makes over 55s different than
yeah. I
to,
was
let's
gonna
say,
go there without
40?
using swear words, which I would use.
Yeah,
Two
I think,
seconds.
I
What
think
would you tell that CEO or a CMO? What?
I think we belong to a generation or where we're willing to work very hard. And everybody's talking about work-life balance. Hello, in 1976, when I was starting medical school,
There was no
it was
work-life
work
balance.
it was work balance, right? And it was right now it's for the young people. It's like, I'm sorry to say this, but it's life, and so they're coming in and with all their demands about holidays and all the rest. And I wouldn't have dared to have said this, and I was willing to put a lot of my personal life on hold
Yes,
simply just to continue to get ahead and to make certain sacrifices. So a lot of, just to give you an example, a lot of my holiday time was spent doing doing training myself, traveling to Holland, traveling to China, traveling, just gaining more knowledge. And also at that time we only had maybe books or handouts or whatever. And my experiences teaching young people now is they want an app, right? They don't want a book, they want an app, and they don't want to have to kill themselves learning too much or looking things up in a manual or whatever, because they can do it right away. They can, they don't want to so extenuate themselves doing learning this. And this is not with the over 55s are willing to put in a lot of very hard work.
I
Um,
remember that specifically when I was international. Calls began at 9 o'clock in the morning.
yeah,
Work, 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 and then at 10 o'clock at night, I would still be on the phone to
sure,
India, Thailand,
sure,
Japan, China,
sure,
because they had their own time zone.
sure,
So,
sure,
and work never stopped, and we
yeah.
never ever thought about work-life balance at all. Like, yes, it is true.
Yeah. So I think that that's one thing. However, when you're over 55, you tend to reminisce a lot and tell a lot of stories and jokes, right? And swear a lot. So they have to put up with that, right?
Yes, I swear a lot. Everybody
Yes.
who lived in Madrid
Sure.
absolutely swears.
Sure.
We're given a special dispensation,
Yes,
a
that's right.
papal dispensation. We can swear. It's in our passport. But Belia, it's been absolutely great to see you again.
Well,
Uh,
Marcelo,
en-
thank you
Enjoy
for being.
Berlin. I
Thank you.
really did. I I went to Berlin as a grown up instead of like Germany, which I visited when I was like the first time, I don't know, 17, 18. And I kept on visiting. I went to Berlin really late, and I found it an amazing city.
It's an amazing
It-
city. And
Yes,
and for the future, I think one of the things that I'm going to do, and a lot depends on the elections in Brandenburg, which are this Sunday. If there's a right wing backlash here in Germany, I will start spending a lot more time fighting the far right and the fascists. This is what I'm going
I,
to dedicate
I
myself to.
I did that at 20,
I
and
did
I'm
that at 20 as well, and it's
yes,
time to do it again.
yes,
They're in power in two parts of Germany, in Saxony and in Thuringia, and they may get into power in Brandenburg this weekend. And man, I'm going to join the fight and put my money into those places
yep,
that need it, right?
absolutely. Well, it's been great. You look, I would recognize you. And I've known you since you were like, I don't know, 14, 12,
12,
or whatever,
12.
12. But let me tell you, if I saw you in the street, I would recognize you.
Thank you. I would recognize you too. You look fabulous as well.
Well,
And
you look
and,
tremendous.
and thanks for being a pal all these years.
Yes. So, anyway, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. And
Same here.
hopefully, I'll see you when you're in Miami. So, I mean, in Florida somewhere.
I'll call you.
Yes, do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye.